I'm Kelly Siegel, and this is Harder Than Life, a podcast about self-love, self-awareness, business, and health. We tell outrageous stories and boil everything down to simple, practical advice you can start using today. Let's get living. All right, this is the Harder Than Life podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Siegel. We are going to deviate today and simply have a real talk conversation with my new friend, Jim Hernandez. His story of addiction led him to homelessness for 18 months, had his car repossessed, and that isn't even the worst of it, but I'm going to let him tell you the Harder Than Life crusade to peace, freedom, and happiness, though, you guessed it, vulnerability. Welcome, my California brother. Isn't it early there right now?
Kelly.
Isn't it early?
What's that?
It's super early there right now, right?
Yeah, man. I almost sent you a text last night asking if we could redo this.
Bro, thank you so much. It's with the schedules for these things. Who knew that I would actually people want to hear me? So the schedule's busy. We don't get you in. It's gonna be a while. But man,
Man, I booked this like over a month ago. I see that. You're a wanted man. You're in demand.
Well,
It's gotta be nice.
It's humbling, man. It's really humbling. You don't understand. You do understand. Actually, what we're talking about. You understand the violence it took to get to where we are today, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, Jim, tell me what's your story and why does it matter?
Well, man, just like in a nutshell, my story is my story. It is what it is. Like, so many people that are going to listen to this and their addiction recovery can relate. What it comes down to is I got help from unexpected places when I was at a very, very bottom of my life. Was able to get help and recreate myself. And now I feel like my karmic debt to society and just kind of God's path for me is to try to help as many other people and be that unexpected place for other people now. So, we don't need to get into we don't need to get into all the war stories right now. I read your book. I've been diving into your book, and a lot of childhood trauma played a big part. But we can only use that card so much as adults. Once we realize it and we start growing from it, you can only pull that card out so many times, and then we just got to get past it because we can't continue being a victim of our past.
Well, we get past it, but we have to share so people can resonate and understand who you are. I mean, we're neophytes in the business, just get up and coming. So people want to know, hey, who is Jim Hernandez? Why is he on the Harder Than Life podcast today? So it isn't, we're not trying to play a victim. We're just trying to share our story because other people are probably not as far along as you are. And they're going to be like, oh, so wait a minute. Tell me about what decision, what did you call it? A harm or toxic behavior to be homeless for 18 months. So just give us the 10,000 feet overview. Doesn't have to be in detail, just so the people understand why you're here today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. A lot of being uncomfortable in my own skin, a lot of isolation, childhood trauma. I was raised by a young mom. My mom had me when she was 16. She was a child trying to raise a child. Back in the early 80s, times were much different back then. No social media, no internet, stuff like that. Back when we had phones on a wall and all that good stuff. So, my mom trying to do her best, working 3 jobs and wanting to have a man in her life for herself and as much for me. I know she knew I wanted that male role model, that male figure to do things with. My dad was never really part of the picture, and when he was, it was a lot of chaos and toxicity. But my mom would allow men to move in really easy with her really quickly. And, a lot of, these men doing things to me that I'm sure we can figure out, childhood trauma, molestation, stuff like that at a very young age. And then, when you get to the age where you realize like, oh shit, that stuff that happened was wrong. Then I didn't know how to deal with it and I blamed myself. And so then I bottled that up. And a lot of being uncomfortable. My last name's Hernandez. I never speak Spanish. When I did go over to my dad's side of the family, who was all from Mexico, they didn't speak English. So it's like I didn't fit in over there. My dad was one of us. He was an alcoholic and he still is. A lot of violence, a lot of anger in that man, and a lot of abuse, mental and physical abuse as a child. And then just when I found alcohol, from being from a place where I never really fit in, I always struggled. I was in school. I was good at sports. I could throw a football far and I could hit a baseball far, and I was captain of the football team and ASB president. And I was expected to. I felt like I was expected to always be something I never was inside. And when I got alcohol for that first time, man, I just felt like, oof, here was a solution to all my problems. Like, where has this been all my life? And so, um, addiction really kicked in my late teens and barely early 20s. Um, but my childhood trauma was still there, and subconsciously and consciously affected like every relationship I ever had, whether it's a friendship, a relationship with a female. And long story short, it just addiction took everything from me. Um, my homes, my cars, led me to be homeless on the streets in LA for about 18 months. I remember right when I lost my last job, I went on Groupon. I don't know if you remember Groupon, that app's still around. And I
It
bought a
is.
membership to Gold's Gym in Venice, and bought a year membership because I knew I was about to get kicked out of my apartment, and I was like, where am I going to shower? And so I bought a year membership to Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, the Mecca. Um, and I bought a little tiny closet shaped sized storage unit. And so I put what I could in there, and I lived out of my car until my car got repossessed. I remember I walked out of the gym one day and my car wasn't in the parking lot anymore. And I was like, okay, all right, here we go. So then I'm just on the streets in Los Angeles. And that lasted about another, from when my car got repossessed until I got into treatment, about another year. So I was living on the streets, and in and out of jail 5150. I don't know, 3 times I've been in jail, and at least 18 times in my life. And that was another identity crisis, uncomfortable in my own skin because I'm Mexican. But I've never been in gangs. I don't have any tattoos, and so inside I didn't run with the Mexicans. I ran with what they call the Woods, which is the white people, and that caused a lot of problems inside. Being Hispanic, last name Hernandez, but running with the whites, so um, just more chaos. And so, um, about a year after my car got repossessed, I got help from a place called Homeless Healthcare of LA. They got me into a government-funded treatment center, which is a rehab with 53 other dudes. It was pretty much LA County Jail West because it was all guys that were coming out of prison or off the streets, and wasn't much recovery going there, but you could get it if you wanted it. And I decided for the first time in my life to ditch my pride and my ego and surrender. And I was fully willing. And so that changed the trajectory of the whole rest of my life. And
When was that?
here I
Hold
am
on.
with
When
Casey.
was that? What
It
year
was,
was that?
where was it? Is that what we said? That was in Venice Beach.
No, when?
So that was 2016. So my sober date's February 19th, 2019. So, when I got into treatment, the first time I got to about 11 months. And then I went through a little relapse. But 2016 is when I actually got off the streets.
So, Jim, I want to say something. First of all, I love you and you matter and you're now safe. And that all just resonated with me tremendously. Obviously, you just read my books. You know that I've been through all that. And alcohol for me got me away from all those demons, all those childhood demons, and I could be who I am. But the collateral damage that came with it. So I'm going to say a couple things, and I hope they don't trigger you. And I'm going to tread very lightly because I want the listeners to understand what I just heard. So as a child, you thought this was all your fault, and you ended up drinking the poison and expecting your dad or your mother to suffer. And all you did is keep punishing yourself. So if this is what you're doing, look at us, Harder Than Life, and Jim here. So we know that it's just not the way. It's not the path. And I just, my heart feels for you, man. And I'm so glad that you're here today with your sober AF shirt and you're early in the morning at the gym. And, and that's really what I want to talk about is why did you decide to get clean and what was your why?
That aha moment, like, I honestly, why did I decide to get clean? I had no other option, to be honest. Like, I was living on the streets, and they say, sometimes you're all dressed up with nowhere to go, but what about when you just have nowhere to go? What about when you're just sleeping in bushes, and you're sleeping, trying to hide out in little cuts, because you have nowhere safe to go. And then when you're that bone chilling cold at nighttime, when you just think you'll never be warm again. Uh, I the lights were on, but nobody was home. There was nobody inside this. I was a shell walking around for a long time. I was just chasing that bottle. Like I would black out 5 times a day
Mm.
when I was homeless, because I didn't want to be awake. I just didn't want to feel. So if I was awake, I was drinking straight vodka just to black out, just so I could be asleep and not feel anything. If I was awake, I didn't want to be awake. So it was just hopelessness. And so I had nothing else to do. I was at my bottom. Like I hit my bottom and I was just going parallel. I was just going like this.
There was
And
nowhere lower to go.
yeah, I mean, death.
They say there's a place lower than hell, but I don't know. You must have just bottomed out there. I want to point out too that there is collateral damage of, like, so your mother, and I'm not trying to blame your mother in any way, shape, or form, but she obviously had some childhood trauma, so she would bring in men with very little standards for herself. So where I'm getting at is, ladies, single ladies, be careful who comes in your child's life. Have standards. People call them boundaries. I call them standards, minimums. Here, you must be this tall to ride this ride. Because look what happened to Jim here. This is not, I don't want to get into it because it will crush my whole soul, and I'll start crying. But that should never freaking happen. And it could have happened. It could have been avoided if we just said, hey, here's who's allowed to have access to the house. So love yourself is basically what I'm trying to say, ladies. Ladies, single ladies, all ladies, just love yourself. I want to ask you a question about that. You said something that I wrote down right away. Who were the people that you got unexpected help from? Because that get me thinking. I'm like, I keep saying I did this alone, but there's no way I did it alone. And I'm trying to think of where I think the unexpected help came from people like you, because I'm still in the thralls. I meet some amazing people from this podcast and through our masterminds and stuff, but who are those unexpected people that helped you?
First of all, it was my probation officer. My probation officer, I remember I went to LAX courthouse one day, and this always blows my mind. I try to think back at it. I'm like, how did I remember I had an appointment with my probation officer? I was homeless. I was drunk 24/7. But I remembered, and I went in to meet with my probation officer, and she was just like, dude, you are a mess. She's like, what is wrong with you? Like, you stink, you smell, you look like ass. And for the first time in my life, I told another human being, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I need help. It was the first time I walked in. My probation officer was a short little lady, and I didn't walk in there expecting to say this. I walked in there expecting to pretend like I still had everything figured out, even though I was homeless and I was drunk 24/7. And I asked her for help, and she turned me on to a place called Homeless Healthcare of LA here in Los Angeles. And so she made me an appointment the next day. I went down there. I showed up, and simply by showing up, there's a lot of power in showing up. Simply by showing up, they got me into I didn't have money and I didn't have insurance, and I thought those were the only two ways to get into rehab or treatment. I didn't know there was what they call programs, like government funded programs, and so I didn't know those existed. So I showed up at Homeless Healthcare of LA one day on Beverly in Los Angeles, and they said, hey, we're gonna get you in a place called Phoenix House, which is a treatment center. And I said, whoa, okay, well, I don't have insurance and I don't have money. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it, And so that was the first two unexpected places. And I got in there, and in the 7 months I was in this treatment center, I had counselors that genuinely cared about me, and when I didn't care about myself. So when I walked in those doors, I surrendered, and I just said, for the first time in my life, I said, hey, I'm going to do whatever you guys tell me to do. Like, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. So first it was my probation officer, then it was Homeless Healthcare of LA, then it was Phoenix House, and places that I didn't know existed that saved my life, changed the trajectory of the whole rest of my life.
Kudos to that probation officer. I got caught up in the system selling drugs in college, and my probation officer did not want me to succeed. And they went out of their way to make me not succeed. But I'm so stubborn, so hard-headed. I literally have to fight tooth and nail for that's what the universe does to me. Makes it incredibly hard, so I get it through my thick head that don't do that. So kudos to that woman. that's real rehabilitation and real help. So that's a great freaking story, brother. That's why I had to have you on. What were you put on this earth to do?
I'm still figuring that out, Kelly. I'm 46 years old. I'm still figuring that out. Today today I really believe it's to help others. What I found in recovery is a lot of reaching up and then reaching down. I look up to people that have what I want, and that's what I was taught when I first got into addiction recovery. Find the people that have what you want, and then hang around with those people. But never forget where you came from, and never forget to reach down and help the ones that need your help, just like you got help from there. So, I'm still figuring out what my plan, my path, and what God had planned for me. Trying to really be open and not force my will on things. I work full time in healthcare, and I really enjoy what I do. I also have a nonprofit and a fitness clothing line, both addiction recovery based, both using physical fitness as a powerful tool in addiction recovery. My nonprofit's really about unity and connection, and establishing a new way of life for people through physical fitness and through unity and connection with others. And we help a lot of people. I've been in, because of my businesses, my fitness clothing line. I've always said we donate one item of clothing for each item sold, and to date, I've been in skid rows all over the U.S., from Brooklyn to Phoenix, multiple times to Denver, multiple times to L.A., 25, 30 times, and we've handed out about 1,500 meals and probably about 13,000 items of clothing to the homeless. I work in treatment centers often. I go and I spend a lot of time in treatment centers, addiction treatment centers, and ones that bring in people that are coming off the streets or out of prison. Uh, that have very few resources to them, not like the Passages in Malibu. I love those treatment centers, but places where the people don't really have good resources. So I think right now what I'm trying to do is be open to what God's trying to show me, and just help as many people as possible, and still figure things out.
You're truly remarkable. You went from homeless to helping to handing out food and clothes to the homeless. So it's not lost on anybody, and I love that. And I will tell you, you left off one part. You said you're reaching up and you're reaching down to help people, all the while getting your teeth kicked in. It's not easy, man. I don't have the desire to have any drinks or numb anymore, but as you start peeling back the onion in the layers, you start realizing what your childhood trauma is, and some of it's really, really hard to heal. It's been ingrained in us for survival. So I just want to make sure people understand, we may make it look easy, but it is not easy. I'm in a constant state of battling. I may not have the desire to drink anymore or do any drugs at all. I don't. That's healed. It's the feeling unloved or less than, or that I'm battling every day, which is it's tremendous. And I say that because I think that you feel the same way.
Generational curses. I read your book and I read your story, and I remember you, in one part of your book, you said you're determined to break that generational curse with your daughter, and I think that's a very powerful thing. To be aware of what generational curses can be, and recognize them. And character defects are always going to be there. Just because we're working on them doesn't mean they're not going to act up. It's because I know my character defects, and I'm constantly working on them. Man, it's like emotional relapse. Like, I know things I shouldn't do. That doesn't mean I don't always do them. Just similar to you, my obsession for alcohol and drugs has been lifted, but my obsession to be a dumbass has not been lifted all the time. My obsession to do things I shouldn't do has not been lifted all the time. So that's a constant battle of being awareness and staying in your conscious and my moral compass.
I don't have that. I literally, the moment that I feel a trigger, I just sit in it, and I don't do anything. I don't make any toxic decisions, because I know the consequences, repercussions. I've done them all. I think I used them all up. So that's funny that you brought that up, because I literally was going to ask, what does your daily routine look like? Because when you're in recovery, we got to keep busy, and we got to do things routine and consistently and disciplined, because of the the character defects and the ability to slip really quick, because that negative momentum happens fast. You blink your eye, you're like, oops, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
So what's your daily routine
What
look
I
like?
do now is not what I did years ago. I think we always evolve, and so my daily routine now is much different than my daily routine was at 6 months, at a year, 2 years. Now I'm a little over 4 years in recovery, and we evolve and we're ever changing. So my daily routine today is, I wake up by about 5:36. I pray and meditate every morning. I'm still figuring this meditation thing out. I think the first couple of times I meditated, I'm like, am I doing this right? Like, I wasn't really sure. So, but meditation is, it's a very personal thing to each individual, and it's going to look different for everybody. And so I'm figuring out what it looks like to me. But I do it every morning. I definitely pray. I hit my knees. My higher power has got me through a lot. And so I go to the gym every morning. I head into my office. Put in a good day at the office. Then afterwards, I usually go to a meeting. I go to AA meetings at least 5 times a week. So oftentimes I go to AA meetings. I work in a couple treatment centers where I go in, I lead panels, I go into prisons and stuff, and I bring speakers. And so my weekdays, man, I leave at 6 a.m. I'm very rarely home by 9. Do I recommend that? No, I don't recommend that, especially if you're in early recovery. I don't recommend that. But that's what my life is like right now. Then I have to consciously slow it down a little bit. My weekends, I tend to, I'm blessed now to have a little bit of money in my pocket where I can, do a little bit of traveling. I had never traveled. All my money in my 20s and 30s went to alcohol, and I never really traveled. I came from no money. I would lie. I would lie and say I had money. I never did. I had barely enough to get by. I think I've lived week to week pretty much my entire life. Until recently. So I can get out and do things now. So my weekends are still, I have events for my nonprofit on a lot of the days, but I do lots of weekend getaways. So
Where have you been recently that's been fun?
I do a lot of San Diego trips. So I live in Los Angeles. San Diego is really, really close. I lived in San Diego for years. I think I went to New York for the first time last year. Been to Seattle recently. I hadn't been to Seattle since I was a young kid. I've been to Phoenix and I've been to Denver. I've traveled more since COVID, I think, than I have in my entire life. And so, I just got my passport a couple months ago. I'd never had a passport as an adult.
Get
I wasn't
out of
able
town. Where are you going to go first? Mexico?
right across the street. No, I wasn't allowed to have a passport. The government wouldn't let me have it. They didn't want me to leave the United States. So
been there,
that was
done
a badge
that,
of
bro.
honor. What's that?
Been there, done that. Can't leave because of the felonies.
Yeah. So I feel almost like a human being now, almost like a grown ass adult at 46 years old. I got my passport in the mail a couple months ago, and I was like, whoa.
Have you got anything planned to go out of the country?
I don't have any specific plans. I do want to go to the Philippines, and I do want to go to Sydney, Australia. So
just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah.
You might want to just try like Jamaica or something close. Anyways, I do something for me and book something. That's traveling experiences over things are very important. And when you go see how other countries live, it is humbling. Where I've been all over the world, and you go into a true third world country and you go into their inner villages and you see how happy people are. You go to one of these blue zones where they're the happiest people on the planet because they have no stress. They're not worried about external things. So, we've always learned everything's internal. Happiness is an inside out job, not an outside in. So next time I want you to send me a text of where you book. Maybe I'll join you. But I'm going to be out in San Diego soon, and I will let you know when. I have some friends that rented a condo out there. And I think I haven't been to California in a minute, so I'll be reaching out to you. We're gonna switch. I love it. Yeah, I love it. We'll come train together. 46 and I'm 47. I'll come put you through a workout. I want to go to that gym that you lived at for a year.
Old gym, the Mecca. Yeah.
We're gonna switch gears a little bit. My reason for branding Harder Than Life is to create awareness for what you call harm reduction. Since I aim to be softer and accepting, I like this term. What do you mean specifically by that?
Harm reduction is something that, man, I think harm reduction has multiple definitions to me. Harm reduction, because of what I do in companies and organizations and other nonprofits I work with, has a couple different terms. Like I work with Homeless Healthcare of LA, and they have a couple different things. They have needle exchange and the Skid Row, and they have a place that where people can go use in a safe environment. And so it's in Skid Row. You have to understand Skid Row is, if you've never been there, and I hope to God nobody that's listening to this has or has lived that life, it's going to happen regardless. People are going to do drugs regardless. And so Homeless Healthcare of LA, and I back this and I work with it. I don't necessarily, I'm an AA guy. I'm a abstinence person, but I understand that's not for everybody. And so they have facilities and places where people can go use, and if they OD, then staff's there to help them and bring them back to life. Right now, lots of people hit me up on my DMs and talk to me and talk bad about harm reduction and very judgmental, and that's for them to deal with. I've OD'd a couple times and I'm still here, so I'm a walking testament that people can change. It's not, you are too. You're a walking testament that people can change. So I don't promote harm reduction as far as like use that as a way of life, but I realize that for some people that's very real. And what's so funny is it's not funny. It's just a group of people came and kind of got at me in my DMs about some work I did, and and they're like, oh, harm reduction, you guys are just letting people use needles, and you guys are just promoting people to use crack and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, that's not what it is at all. But they don't want to listen to it, and that's their own prerogative. And it got me looking. When I was looking at the people and that were attacking me in DMs, and I'm pulling up their IG and I'm looking at their stuff because they're attacking me through Instagram, and I'm looking at their life and I'm like, look at these people. They don't even realize they're implementing harm reduction in their own life. They're vegan, they're gluten-free, they're this, they're that, but they're going out and being weekend warriors with alcohol and cocaine. It's like, you're doing all these healthy things Monday through Friday with veganism, eating healthy, putting on this image, and then you're going out and power playing on the weekends. You're in essence doing harm reduction also by being vegan and stuff, and then you're just destroying your body with alcohol and drugs. So they don't realize it's they're doing the same thing. So harm reduction is something that it's an interesting topic. It's a very sensitive topic that people are very passionate about.
Let me jump
I
in
try
there
to be
for just.
open-minded.
Let me jump in for just a second, because those weekend warriors, I want to specifically talk about that, because that's how quickly it spirals from a weekend warrior to being homeless for 18 months, because it's the same demon, the exact same childhood trauma or wound, insert whatever the hell you're drinking for or they're doing drugs for, and it just add a little more time and a little more pain and a little more avoidance, and boom. That's why in my thing, harm reduction is a little bit harsh, because in that case, we just need to get to the root. We need to get to the root of the problem. Why are you drinking and doing cocaine on the weekends? What are you trying to mask? Let's get right there before you're on Skid Row doing it. And the harm reduction, I get that. I've always struggled with that. My father was a heroin addict, and he would go to a methadone clinic and get methadones because they said, oh, it's safer. And then he ended up dying anyways. So I don't know. I mean, I get it that it's lesser, but sometimes you're just prolonging the inevitable. Either way, it's, you want to change the fruit, address the root. And that's literally, you stole my next question. But what I wanted to ask you specifically, because this just came up, is what was the driving force in your addiction? The one thing. Mine was that I wasn't lovable and I desired to fit in with my friends. What was your root cause? Was it, I know, and I'm not just going to stop there. What was the root cause? What made you drink specifically?
Man, I've never had it verbalized like that before, like a root cause that made me drink specifically. It was definitely running away from things. It was definitely insecurities. It was definitely feeling like I was inadequate, like I didn't fit in. and not knowing how to properly deal with feelings, so I would just numb and run away with them. So, man, that's a topic I can probably go into a rabbit hole and go and speak on for a long time. My root cause was feeling inadequate, feeling lesser than, um, being very, very insecure, and just not really feeling like I fit in ever. And alcohol and drugs, took that away. And I can sit here and say it was a childhood trauma. I can sit here and say, man, I'm if there's an A behind it, alcoholism, sex addicts, sex and love addiction, like I probably got it, and I'm an advocate for multiple different programs, and you and I both work out, and I think we worked out, in my early 20s and 30s, I worked out like a monster, and I worked out for multiple different insecure reasons. Because the root cause was I didn't like who this person was inside. I didn't like it. I didn't like that person at all. Nothing about it I liked. And I thought if I got myself to look a certain way, I would like myself. I got myself to look a certain way physically, I would get the woman. And if I got the woman, I would like myself. If I got to look a certain way and get a certain way, God forbid any man ever try to put his hands on me again, because there was going to be a hell to be paid by a man that tried to do that. There's so many different things that I was trying to fix externally, like you said earlier, but it's an inside job. The root cause is I didn't like this person inside. That was the root cause. And until I did that ugly cry with a therapist, and I talked to somebody for the first time in my life about that shit that happened to me as a kid, about those men, that what they did to me. And I was open and honest about it, and I could really dig into the feeling, and then realize, like, why am I a sex addict? Oh, I'm a sex addict because I hurt inside. So if I have sex, I feel good inside. And I'm a sex addict because my subconscious mind and my conscious mind. My first sexual experience was with a male. Am I gay? I'm not gay, but my first sexual experience was a male, so I was really confused. I didn't like this person inside. I didn't know what was going on. Your subconscious mind is so powerful, and just the root cause was I hated this person inside. And until I liked this person inside and I was okay to sit alone with this person inside, it was just a whirlwind.
Thank you for sharing. That's exact, because there's so many people that are going to listen to this and hear the same thing. And you just described how I felt, and I wanted to fit in, and I got my fitting in. It's amazing how, if you want to fit in somewhere, boy, just grab a bottle and go to any local bar. And there's a bunch of people. It's the road less traveled, and that's where I want to be right now, man. If everybody's doing it, I don't want it. Give me the hard way. But everything you just said, I feel, man. I had a hard cry this week in therapy about a physical abuse that my mom gave me, man. And I'm the same way, man. That's why I'm a big dude. I ain't nobody putting their hands on me again. They do. They're walking away with a limp if they walk away. So I love you, and I appreciate you sharing that. That's took a hell of a lot of courage, which is going to lead me to the next question, which is, how's the dating pool for a sober, handsome man in LA?
Man, there's a rabbit hole right there in itself. That's a
Dude, hey, listen to me. We're separated at birth, man. We could sit here and tell stories. If I had 3 hours, we could go on. But every single thing you're going through, I'm going through. You are not alone. You send me a text anytime, and I'll tell you, I'm in the arena battling, bro. It's amazing how when you take out drugs and alcohol, and even if you say, okay, a woman, a prospective mate, can have 1 or 2 drinks. The second they see how we live, it just amplifies their insecurities, and nobody wants to deal with their issues. And here's a living proof of a man crushing life who was homeless. I am having some success at what I'm doing by just sitting in my shit, man. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a hell of a lot better than waking up with a hangover or wondering where the hell my car is or where all my money is, or in your case, where are you going to eat and sleep? And that's what happens. So again, how's your dating experience been? I can't even say it with a straight face.
It's a very humbling experience. It's I've gone on and off the dating apps, and I've realized the dating apps are they're
Do they work? I've never been on.
I mean, they do. when it comes down to dating, if I just want to be honest with myself,
No. Let's start lying now because we've
let's
shot
lie.
it our whole life.
Let's lie. I'm really good at that. Obviously, I'm not. I probably wasn't ready still. I still have a lot of work to do. We're always working on ourselves, and when I start to, emotional relapse is a real thing. When I start focusing on other people's, like, what I think is wrong with somebody else, or I start harboring resentments in any way, then I need to realize, like, sometimes I need to step back and do some inner work. And I can sit here and I can talk about dating in LA. I can say women are pretentious. I can say all this, but it's not. It's obviously I'm not ready, because I know going into, and LA, it's a different beast, man. LA people, and I have to respect a lot of it. People move and reroute themselves from other parts of the country and move to LA. Very few people in LA are from LA, and they come here chasing a dream. And so when you do that, if you come here and you leave where you're going to come to LA and chase your dream, whether it's a musician, an actress, whatever it is, like, you're going to use people to get to what you want to do if you have that kind of tenacity to go and reroute yourself. So it's a different dating pool, and I can't focus on the shortcomings of others. I have to realize that it's in God's time, and when I start focusing on what I think is wrong with somebody else, then there's probably something within myself. So,
Well,
for
also
me,
too,
dating apps were a
if you're
rabbit hole that I got into that weren't healthy for me. I met some amazing women on dating apps, but I've for the last 6 weeks since I've been off dating apps, I've probably had more serenity and inner peace. They take a lot of damn time. Dating takes a lot of time. You gotta take a lot of time, and you can waste a lot of energy. And I'm still sensitive inside. I'm a big dude, but I'm a Cancer. I'm sensitive. I feel, and I allow myself to feel now. When I'm still figuring it out.
my man went through his
So I'm still,
horoscope side.
man. So for me, about
if
6 weeks ago,
I'm sorry. I
what's
just
that?
want to say, if you want to, and you'll see this as you get further, you think you're healed, wait till you get in a relationship. A romantic relationship exposes things that you thought you had addressed, and boy, oh boy, oh boy. And then I start looking and going, what have I not healed in myself that I attracted this? Because, your vibe, you're an energy. We're all energy. So we're attracting this. You're attracting equal and opposite. So I always look and go, I got some work to do still.
You know what I did? Like, I've really had to be comfortable with my own skin and just kind of like not give a fuck about what people think. Can I be cuts on here? And so I've gone through some crazy rabbit holes. I've done stuff in the last, like, year and a half. Like, I had my first relationship in sobriety, and it didn't work out. And man, I wanted to act out right away, and I wanted to just expose this person, but I didn't. I've changed, and it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy, but I didn't act out. But in the healing process, I said, "F it, I'm gonna do this." I went and explored the kink and fetish lifestyle. I did that. I went and did some different lifestyle shit that I've never done, man. I did, man. I went to some sex parties. I did some shit. Like, I'm not gonna get into details, but I was just like,
I'm healed, but invite me to that shit. I love it. I'm just kidding.
man.
I
was just like, people, something people do. People judge people for it, but there's like, ooh, I've always wondered. And so I just said, I'm single. I'm just gonna do all that shit I always wondered about and I wanted to do. So I just did it. I realized it wasn't for me. I went to the parties. I played with the couples. I did all this shit that we don't need to really get on.
You ain't gonna find love there, brother. You ain't gonna find love there, though. I'm gonna tell you that.
No, but you know what? I got it out of my system, and God forgive me for doing that. I got it out of my system. So, this is all part of the process of getting me ready for when I do find that woman. I'm now ready, and it's like, if anybody's gonna judge me for that, go, yourself, because we've all thought about it, and I just did it. So I went and I did act out in certain ways.
At least you
I've
didn't
been
drink
used
or
for
drug,
sex.
brother.
I've used people for sex.
At least you didn't
What's
drink
that?
or drug. At least you didn't drink or drug. I honestly, I think anything. I always say anything can be fixed, but dead. I think anything can be fixed, as long as you're not drinking or drugging. I mean, the rest of the stuff, it's important, but it's secondary. I mean, there are other toxins that people do, porn and sex.
That really shows you not drinking in LA and trying to date, and that really shows you, like, test your will and your character, because so much in LA, this, you're a businessman. So much business is around alcohol and drugs. So much dating's around alcohol and drugs. And I've encountered lots of women that don't want to date me just because I don't drink. And at first I'm just, your pride and your ego and you're not ready for it. And then it's just acceptance.
Remember what I said
We're not
about the
everybody's type, but
ladies.
as a male and our ego, sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow. And, I want to act out. Oh, you know what? Well, you just go ahead and why don't you just go waste and drink all your weekends and go all, it's having to be okay with yourself. And,
Yeah, it's standard. It's again, I talked about those standards, and you're raising your standards. You're not an alcoholic. I mean, well, you're not drunk anymore. So you got to get rid of those feelings and thoughts of the inside. It's a process, man. And believe me, I did it. I dated somebody, showed up to my house with a bottle of wine first day and drank said bottle of wine and then drove home. And I right then and there should have been a red flag. This isn't for me. Oh no, but she was too hot. Smoking. And then, 6 months later, I'm like, wow, here I am in the same type of relationship that I've always been in. Got some more work to do, Mr. Siegel. And inward I went, and I won't do that again. And I'll pay attention. A red flag is a red flag. Pay the freak attention. And then if you keep attracting it, guess what? One finger pointing away, 3 pointing back at you. So I loved how you went with it's not LA, it's me. So that's crazy self-awareness, and it means that you're healing. And I'm proud of you because most people don't. What's your greatest fear, my brother?
That's a phenomenal question. I love that topic because it's fear, not physical harm, but fear of being rejected, fear of failure of death. What is your greatest fear? So that's something that my greatest fuck, man.
You knew it was gonna be deep. So, this is harder than life, baby. Come on.
My greatest fear is that my children go through what I went through, and my daughter's on her way right now, and it's really breaking my heart. It's something that I struggle with, and as I'm speaking right now, I'm kind of welling up a little bit because I have twins. They're 15, boy and a girl.
Did you just see me get all tight? Oh, I will die. I just got all tense up. Did you see me just? I would die if my daughter has to face what we had to face.
My greatest fear is I don't think it's anything for me now because I've experienced so much and I'm here and I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of embarrassment and failure. I failed, and it's going to happen. So many people, when you have people like you and I, Kelly, I love dealing with entrepreneurs and you don't know what you don't know. And I love dealing with people that put themselves out there. And if we fail at life, whatever, so many people criticize people for business failures or whatever, but people that criticize are people that aren't doing shit them fucking selves. They're just sitting back and not taking a risk. And entrepreneurs that talk to other entrepreneurs, it's not a failure, it's a learning experience. So, you respect the fact that somebody puts themselves out there, whether they succeeded or not. And so that's nothing that I fear. I fear, my children going through the life that I went through, and my daughter's going through some stuff right now, and she's acting out, and she's experimenting with a lot of things, and she's been through some really tough times that I went through as a child, and I never wanted that for. I never realized that it would affect me like it is until it happens, and so I'm kind of living my greatest fear right now. Something that really terrified me. I'm kind of experiencing it in the moment right now, and trying to figure it out and trying to deal with it. And I'm realizing God put me through what He put me through, so I could be here for them to try to help them navigate and figure it out. I'm still figuring life out myself. Teenagers are just figuring out one day at a time. They think they act like they've got it all figured out, but they don't. They're terrified inside. They're scared inside. And so I'm just here to try to be an example and
may I give you a perspective? May I give you a perspective? So one of the things I'm picking up from you, because I had the same thing, was the lack of control that we had in our life as children, and what this is why this could be happening is because it's still unhealed in you, because you have very little control over those twins, and that scares the heck out of you. It's a childhood trauma. It's more trauma that you still need to heal and surrender. That you might want to go down that path. I mean, again, I only play a therapist. I'm just saying that just hit me, because I do that with my daughter too. And it's just an unresolved thing that I got to let go, not be a hover parent, understand that they got to learn their way. You learned your way. I learned my way. our ways are different, and yet we ended up here. I'm going to tell you that they're going to end up okay because they got a father that gets it. But just think about that. Did that resonate at all with you? Like that lack of control that we had as children, and lack of any voice. That's the scare. That right there is one of my still major childhood wounds. Is just if things are chaos and out of control, I like things in control. I like to control things. But I learned that the more I learn, the less I know. The more control I think I have, the less control I really have. And just letting it be and knowing that the universe is got my back, truly got my back, because every single thing I've made it through. Every hardship, every positive, every negative, every up and down, I'm here. And so are you. So hopefully that gives you a little bit. I could be way off, but we seem to be very, very similar. So when you were down, what can you think of that'll make you smile?
Honestly, I think about my kids a lot, and I definitely think about them. I think about watching them, how much they've changed, and seeing them, that the light click to them a lot, and just being part of them, seeing them smile and really become comfortable. And my son more so than my daughter. My daughter's, like I said, struggling, but when I'm down, I have to get out of myself. And so, if you're in the problem and not in the solution, you're going to stay in the problem, and that rabbit hole is going to grow. So, I don't, when I'm down, I just change I change my environment. So, and get out of self. I just have to get out of self. So, I grab so much joy from watching the progress of my kids, and I'm not involved in their lives. I'm a lot. I see him a couple once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. But I grab joy from them and others, and I grabbed joy recently. I've reconnected with my mom. I call my mom almost every morning on my way to to work. And my mom lives a very, very simple life, but she's very happy. And I know she looks forward to me talking to her every morning. So when I drive to work, I call her. And so when I'm down, I just try to really get out of self. So, and
Be
I go to the
present.
gym,
That
and
makes me so happy. I love that you're talking to your mom. That's the one regret I have, man. I wish I could talk to my mother. She's just,
I didn't reach out to my dad. My dad and I have never had a good relationship, and we never had. And my dad's it's a really tough point for me. But I still call him. I make myself do things that aren't comfortable, because I know that's where growth is. Growth doesn't lie within comfort zones. And so,
true that.
my dad still says things that just, man, oof. But I reach out to him because I know I need to. I know he loves me inside, and I know in there he knows that he doesn't really know how to communicate, and I know there's good in there, but generational curses are real, and in the Hispanic culture and families, communication has never been a strong point for us, and so
Talking
I
about,
know
I've seen
there's love
Spanish
in there.
people talk. It's crazy. They have like 40 conversations in one sentence.
Good. That's a conversation.
I love it, man. I love it. We're up against it. I want to finish with tell the listeners about the Valor Fitness Clothing and the Valor Rising, two things that you're passionate about, and it's great causes.
Yeah, thanks. So, when I was in treatment at that rehab center I told you about, there was a little ratty ass gym downstairs, and I used physical fitness for the first time in a real powerful tool for myself, not an unhealthy tool. And I really got my self-esteem, my self-worth, and my self-dignity back. And that, along with the big book, Finding My Higher Power, again, really changed my life. And so, me just being some fireball, when you're first new to recovery and you're sober, you're in that pink cloud and you're just like shooting rainbows and fucking darts of unicorn love and shit like that. I wanted everybody to be sober, and I wanted everybody to use physical fitness as a tool. So I started a fitness clothing line, dedicated towards, trying to inspire people to use physical fitness as a tool in their addiction recovery. So I did that in 2018. Still there. Definitely not flourishing in any ways. I didn't have any experience in any aspect of that, but I started and I haven't quit. And I started a nonprofit a couple of years ago, to use physical fitness also and get people together. We do lots of outdoor events. We do lots of beach workouts. We do lots of hikes. We're doing Culver City stairs. And then we always do meetings. Like we'll go up to, at the end of an hour workout or any kind of activity, we'll do an AA meeting or just check in. We've done lots of sober social events, big sober events, comedy nights, barbecue, stuff like that, bringing people in the sober community together, showing people that we can have fun sober, we have a great time, and just unite and connect. And so just trying to be a safe place. My goal with this, if you think about a boys and girls club is for at-risk youth. It's for inner city youth that at-risk youth that don't have a safe place to go sometimes. And so they go here and they can get a word, a little bit of activity in, do their homework, et cetera, et cetera. For the people that I work with in addiction recovery, I work with people that have come out, out of prison or off the streets, and they're trying to get their lives back together. But, when you go to prison and you get out and the judge sends you to this little treatment center for a couple months, when you're done with that couple months, what do you do then? They don't have any support back home. They don't have anywhere to go. If you're homeless and you go to treatment for 3 months, where do you go after that? You didn't have a home. Your family doesn't love you, or they love you. They put boundaries on you. I want to be that safe place for these people to go get a workout in, spend a couple hours a day, catch an AA meeting. We help people get jobs, build resumes, get housing, whether it's Section 8 housing, whether it's into sober living. So we do a lot of that stuff with the marginalized addiction recovery community that don't have a lot of resources available to them.
So it's valorfitnessclothing.com and valorrising.org. They'll both be in the show notes. Check them out. They're a great cause. Jim, we're up against it. I want to tell you that you have not only Harder Than Life's full support in anything you do. I'm sad I missed the last event. If you give me enough headway or enough lead time, I'll come out and use me and abuse me in any way, shape, or form. You want me to speak? You want me to tell my story? You want me to do guest posing? I don't know, whatever you want. You have not only the Harder Than Life support, but you have my personal support. You need anything, I'm a text message away. I can't tell you how similar we are, and I'm grateful I met you. And I love you, and keep doing what you're doing. And please let me know when the next event is so I can get my hind parts out there ASAP. And I'm going to end it with letting everybody know that the show is sponsored by National Technology Management, the easiest and best IT company to do business with, delivering peace of mind with technology every day. Visit trustntm.com for more info. Until next week, be Harder Than Life. Thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe to Harder Than Life, and let's take this to the next level. Get connected at the links below.